I was just launching my boat into my private lake when the HOA psycho, Karen, came screaming down my driveway, slammed her golf cart straight into my boat. And that's when my trained K9 stepped in and everything spiraled out of control. I was just launching my boat into my private lake when the HOA psycho, Karen, came screaming down my driveway and slammed her golf cart straight into the side of it. At first, I didn't even move. I just stood there, soaking in the absolute insanity of what I'd just witnessed. My boat, a vintage flat-bottom ranch boat I'd spent months restoring, was now wedged against the dock, one side splintered from the impact. The water rippled violently, and my German shepherds, Diesel and Luna, stood up in unison beside me, tails stiff, ears up. Trained instincts activated. I hadn't even said a word yet. Karen threw open the door of her cart, practically foaming at the mouth, waving that stupid clipboard in the air like she was casting a spell. "You can't do this," she shrieked. "This lake isn't up to HOA code. That boat is a hazard." I blinked once, slowly. I didn't raise my voice. "Karen, you're trespassing. Again. And this lake isn't part of the HOA. Never has been. Never will be." She stomped closer, eyes wide with some delusional righteousness that only HOA lifers seem to develop. "The water runoff affects the subdivision. There are environmental concerns. I've filed complaints." "On land you don't own?" I asked, taking a slow step toward her. Her eyes darted to Diesel, then to Luna, who were both flanking her now. Silent, dead calm. Diesel's lip curled slightly, not a growl yet, just a warning. Luna moved 3 feet to Karen's right, blocking her from turning back toward her golf cart. Karen pointed at Diesel. "Called them off. They're threatening me." "They're doing their job," I said, my voice as flat as the lake had been 10 minutes earlier. "You just rammed a vehicle into my boat. That's destruction of property. You're lucky all they're doing is watching." She made the mistake of charging forward again. That's when I gave a single sharp whistle. Diesel moved first, fast and low, cutting in front of her path. Luna circled tighter, forcing her back toward the edge of the dock. She turned, tried to run around them, but miscalculated her step. One foot caught the edge of a board. She spun sideways and went down hard. Splash! Her clipboard flew into the lake. Her phone hit a piling and dropped into the water with a soft plunk. She came up sputtering, hair stuck to her face, screaming something incoherent about lawsuits. I stayed right where I was. "You okay?" I asked, not out of sympathy, but because I needed it on record. "You're insane. You've trained your dogs to attack people." "They didn't touch you," I said calmly. "They blocked you. You fell. That's on you." She tried to climb back up the dock, but Luna stepped forward and stood at the edge, blocking the way. "Luna, sit." She obeyed immediately, eyes never leaving Karen. Karen crawled up onto the grass, soaking wet, shivering in the morning breeze. She collapsed onto the ground, clutching her soaked phone like it was a weapon. "You're done," she said, teeth chattering. "I'm calling the sheriff." "Perfect," I replied. "I already did." It only took about 15 minutes for Deputy Foster to show up. Local guy. Knew the whole neighborhood. He saw Diesel and Luna first, still calm and watching. Then he saw Karen, muddy, soaked, and yelling. "What happened?" he asked, hands on his belt. I didn't even have to say much. I pointed at the security camera mounted to the dock post. "You'll want to see the footage." While he reviewed it on my tablet, Karen kept pacing in circles, ranting about danger to the community, unsafe boating practices, unregulated water access, and something about HOA rights crossing jurisdiction lines. Foster didn't say a word until he finished the video. Then he handed the tablet back to me and turned to her. "Ma'am," he said plainly, "you drove onto private property, crashed your car into his boat, and ignored multiple warnings. He's got it all on video. The dogs didn't touch you? The fall was your fault?" She sputtered. "He trained them to intimidate. That's assault." "No, ma'am. That's called security." Foster pulled out a citation pad. "You're getting hit with trespassing, property damage, and reckless endangerment. And I suggest you don't come back out here." Karen stood frozen, completely stunned that her plan had not only failed, it had completely backfired. I watched as she got back into her soggy golf cart, engine whining pitifully as she limped it off my property. Foster followed her out in his cruiser. The next morning was back to normal. Sunlight on the water, coffee in my hand, Diesel curled up at my feet, Luna watching the driveway. The boat, though damaged, floated with pride. I didn't fix the damage immediately. Left it there for a few days as a reminder. Peace is something you build, and sometimes protect. I was halfway between relief and disbelief when I saw her, barreling down the gravel like a heat-seeking missile. At first, I thought it might be someone lost. Ups, maybe. New driver. Happens now and then. But no, this wasn't a wrong turn. It was deliberate, aggressive, personal. I saw the clipboard before I saw the driver. Flapping in the wind, clutched tight like it held the law of the land. Then came the face. Sharp, red with rage, hair like a tightly wound storm cloud. Iron. Her cart wasn't just modified, it was weaponized. Extra mirrors, oversized wheels, and a makeshift bumper on the front. Probably illegal, definitely unnecessary, and built for one reason: intimidation. She didn't stop at the property line. Didn't pause at the private no trespassing cameras active signs. Didn't slow at the gate. She tore straight through it like it wasn't there, tires flinging gravel, engine screaming. Dust cloud behind her. One hand on the wheel, one finger jabbing in the air like a preacher in the middle of a sermon. I was still holding the winch remote, lowering the boat into the lake when she hit the clearing. She veered off the driveway and aimed straight for me, no hesitation. Like she was trying to catch me in the act of something illegal. Only there was no act. Just me, my boat, and a peaceful morning she had no business being part of. The cart skidded to a stop inches from the dock, and she leapt out like she was storming a castle. Clipboard high, phone recording, voice already screaming. "This is an unregistered aquatic structure," she yelled as if that meant something. "There's no HOA permit for that vessel. This is against code." I didn't even speak at first, just stared at her. My coffee still sat on the dock post. Diesel and Luna had moved from resting to alert, ears up, eyes locked on her. "This lake," I said finally, calmly, "is not under your HOA. It never has been. You know that." She marched past my dogs, bold, stupid, and stomped right onto the dock like she owned it. "You're creating a flood risk," she snapped. "And this boat could cause property value depreciation. If there's an accident, it's on all of us." "All of who?" I asked, voice dropping. "You don't own any of this. You don't even live on this side of the hill." Her hand shot toward the boat. "This is a safety hazard. This has to go." I stepped between her and the winch line. She stopped short but didn't back down. Her voice rose to that glass-breaking pitch only people like her can reach. "You're in violation of multiple community standards." "This isn't your community," I said flatly. "This is my land. You're trespassing." She took one step back, but only to spin around and head for the golf cart. For a moment, I thought maybe she was leaving. Maybe she realized how insane she looked. But no, she floored it and slammed the front of the cart right into the side of my boat. The sound, fiberglass cracking under pressure, echoed across the lake like a gunshot. The whole hull rocked against the dock. One cleat ripped loose and dropped into the water with a loud plunk. Diesel barked once. Loud. Sharp. Warning. I stared at the impact for 2 full seconds before I turned to face her. Karen stepped out like she'd just done something brave. Victorious. "There," she said. "Now it's unsafe. Now it has to be removed. I'll call the board." I clenched my jaw so tight I felt it in my ears. "That's felony property damage," I said, pointing at the cracked bow. "Caught on camera. And you just made it real easy for the sheriff." "I was protecting community standards," she spat. "You people think you're above the rules. On my own land, I am." Diesel and Luna had crept forward. Silent. Controlled. Karen noticed them again. She went stiff, shoulders tensing. I'm not afraid of your dogs, she snapped. But she was. You could hear it. Good, I said, stepping aside. Then you'll have no problem standing still. She took one more step toward the boat, and that was it. I gave a single short whistle. She took one more step toward the boat, shoulders squared like she was about to rip something off with her bare hands. That was it. That was the moment. I gave a single sharp whistle. Diesel moved instantly. One step forward, slow and deliberate, like a shadow gliding across the dock. No barking, no snarling, just a presence, all business. Luna peeled off from the left, circling wide through the grass to cut off any escape. Karen froze. You could see it in her eyes, realization crashing in too late. Her mouth opened, but no words came out at first. Just a stammered breath and a twitch of her hand like she was debating whether to run or stand her ground. Call them off, she said, voice cracking. They're not attacking, I replied calmly. They're guarding. There's a difference. They're threatening me. You rammed my boat with your cart. I was defending the neighborhood. You're standing on private property, uninvited, after committing a crime. Diesel crept another step closer. Not low, not aggressive, just focused. His head held high, eyes locked on her midsection. Luna stopped behind her, not close enough to touch, but close enough to make sure Karen knew exactly where she was. Karen started turning in a circle, her breath speeding up. This is intimidation. You trained them to do this. I trained them to stop threats, I said. You showed up, damaged property, ignored warnings, and now you're trying to escalate. Her hands were shaking now. Her phone was gone at the bottom of the lake somewhere, probably dead. The clipboard she'd been waving like a sword had been left in the cart. She had nothing. No shield. No backup. No audience. She took one step back. Luna matched her step. Stay back, Karen snapped. I swear, if they touch me, they won't, I said. As long as you stay exactly where you are. She took another step, but this time her heel caught on the uneven edge of a dock plank. She wobbled, arms flailing. Diesel didn't move. Luna didn't blink. Karen staggered. Then it happened. She slipped. One foot slid out from under her, and she toppled sideways with a scream. Her hip hit the dock, her elbow bounced, and her entire body pitched forward into the water with a splash so loud it echoed across the lake. I didn't move. Diesel sat down at the edge of the dock, head tilted slightly, as if watching a confused deer flailing in the reeds. Luna backed up 2 steps, posture relaxed, tail still. Karen came up sputtering. Hair soaked, shirt plastered to her, makeup running like war paint. She tried to find footing, but the water was deeper near the dock, at least 5 feet, and the mud sucked at her boots like it wanted to keep her. You set me up, she screamed, coughing water. You let them push me in. They didn't touch you, I said. You fell. I want the police. I want animal control. I want a lawyer. Already called the sheriff, I said. They'll be here any minute. She managed to climb up onto the lower ledge of the dock, coughing and crying now, covered in lakeweed and soaked pride. She reached out like she expected me to help her. I didn't. Diesel shifted forward slightly, just enough to remind her whose dock she was still on. Karen's voice dropped into a pitiful whine. You're going to jail. You can't use dogs as weapons. I'll sue. No one attacked you, I said again. And it's all on camera. That finally shut her up. Just for a second. Her eyes darted to the camera mounted on the dock post, then to the one over the garage, then to the floodlight above the boathouse. This was a trap. No, I said. This was a boundary. You crossed it. She pulled herself fully onto the dock, trying to fix her hair with shaking hands. She looked ruined. Not injured, just stripped of the illusion that she had control. Out here, her clipboard didn't mean anything. Her titles, her HOA connections, her threats, they dissolved the second she left her subdivision. Diesel lay down slowly, eyes still on her but calm now. Luna sat beside me, silent as stone. You're insane, she said finally, her voice hollow. You think you're untouchable. I think I'm in the right, I replied. And this little stunt, it's not going to end how you think it will. She didn't respond. Just stood there, dripping and defeated, trying to piece together how everything had gone so wrong so fast. And me? I just waited, because I knew the sheriff would be there soon. And when he saw the footage, when he saw what she did, how she acted, and what the dogs didn't do, it'd all be over. I could hear her muttering to herself while pacing in soggy shoes, leaving puddles all over my dock. Diesel lay stretched out near the edge, calm as ever. Luna stayed behind me, her eyes still following every twitch of Karen's hands. Neither of them was on edge anymore. They'd done their job. Karen hadn't. She was soaked, humiliated, and completely unhinged. The silence between us was deafening, broken only by her occasional sniffle and the drip of lake water falling from her ruined hair. I'll sue you, she finally spat. You think you can use animals to intimidate people? I'll have you reported. I'll have them taken from you. I didn't respond. I just leaned against the dock railing, watching the gravel roll through the trees. It was quiet, peaceful again. She took a few slow steps toward me, trying to regain some illusion of control. Her voice dropped like she thought sounding calmer would make her threats more believable. You think you're clever? You think filming me is going to save you? She asked. You ambushed me. You set me up. I can say whatever I want about what happened here. I turned my head just slightly. The footage doesn't lie. I can lie, she said with a smile that didn't match the mess she'd become. Go ahead, I said. The sheriff will be here soon. He knows what you pulled in the past. He's not going to buy whatever story you make up this time. She froze again. That was the first time I saw her face crack, like she was realizing this wasn't just another neighborhood complaint she could bully her way out of. You called the sheriff? Her voice was higher now. You called him on me? No. I reported a property crime. Whoever committed it just happened to be you. I saw the cruiser's headlights before she did. Karen spun around as the car pulled into view. Her hand shot up like she was flagging down an ambulance. Officer! Over here! I was attacked. He used dogs to corner me. I was pushed into the lake. The deputy stepped out slowly, hand resting casually on his belt. It was Foster, local, knew the area, knew the people. More importantly, he knew me and Karen. He gave me a short nod, then turned to her. Ma'am, are you injured? I could have been, she snapped. Those animals, you need to call animal control. He set them on me like I was some kind of criminal. He looked past her to Diesel, still lying peacefully with his head on his paws, then to Luna, now sitting with perfect posture. Did they bite you? He asked. No, but... Did they touch you? She hesitated. No, but they surrounded me like an ambush. I handed him the tablet with the dock cam footage queued up. He watched without saying a word. From the moment she flew onto the property to the second she slipped into the lake, every second was recorded. Her voice, her actions, the crash undeniable. When the clip ended, Foster exhaled through his nose and handed it back. Karen, he said, and there was no sugar in his tone, you drove onto private property, ignored posted signage, caused property damage, and initiated an aggressive confrontation. She opened her mouth, but he raised a finger. No, you don't get to twist this. The dogs didn't attack. You fell. He didn't even approach you. And the video's clear. But I'm on the HOA board. You're not on his board, he snapped. This land isn't in the hole. You know that. Karen's face flushed. You're going to let him get away with this? You're lucky you're not in handcuffs, Foster said. But you are getting a citation for trespassing and destruction of private property. If he presses charges, we can escalate this to a misdemeanor criminal case. Honestly, if it were me, I'd go ahead and file. Karen looked like she'd been slapped. She stared at me, then at Foster, then at my dogs, who still hadn't moved. You people are insane, she muttered, turning to stomp toward her cart. But when she saw it, one front wheel twisted sideways, fender cracked from the impact, she realized her getaway wasn't happening. Foster clicked his radio and called for a tow. Karen stood in silence, dripping and furious, while he wrote up the citation. I stood a few feet back, watching, quiet. I didn't need to rub it in. She'd done enough damage to herself. She tried one more time. This isn't over. I'll talk to the county. I'll escalate this. Do what you need to, I said. Just stay off my land. Foster handed her the ticket and pointed to the edge of the driveway. Wait over there. We'll get your cart loaded. You'll need to arrange your own ride. She glared at both of us and walked away, leaving wet footprints behind like a trail of failure. I didn't say anything else. Didn't need to. The damage was done. And this time it wasn't mine. The morning after everything settled felt almost unreal. The sun was hitting the water just right, making the ripples sparkle like scattered diamonds. I sat on the edge of the dock, feet dangling, watching Diesel and Luna play in the grass behind me. They were back to being just dogs again, not the guardians, not the weapons, just companions. For a moment, it felt like the nightmare had passed. But the truth is, I knew better. Karen was gone. Her soaked golf cart was hauled off, and her threats were still echoing in my mind. She'd made it clear she wasn't done. That wasn't a promise. It was a warning. I took a deep breath, letting the cool air fill my lungs. Peace wasn't something that just showed up and stayed. It was something you fought for, something you defended, sometimes with words, sometimes with actions, and sometimes with your K9s. Diesel patted over and nudged my hand with his nose. Luna followed, tail wagging softly. I scratched behind Diesel's ears and felt the calm settle in my chest. These two weren't just trained protectors. They were family, and family stood guard when it mattered most. The boat was still docked, patched up enough to float, but the cracks where Karen's cart hit were a constant reminder. Not just of damage to the wood and paint, but damage to the fragile piece I've been trying to keep. The lake, my sanctuary, wasn't safe. Not yet. I glanced down the driveway. Quiet. No sign of Karen. But I wasn't stupid. People like her don't just disappear. They regroup. They plot. My phone buzzed in my pocket. A message from the HOA president, strangely neutral this time, something about concerns and community safety. I deleted it without reading. I wasn't interested in playing politics anymore. Not when it came to my land and my life. Luna laid her head on my knee. Diesel settled beside her. I looked out over the water, remembering how it all started. Just me, a boat, and a quiet morning. Simple. Peaceful. Then the chaos. But I didn't regret it. Not for a second. Because standing your ground is never easy. It's messy and it's exhausting, and sometimes people get hurt, physically or emotionally. But letting people like Karen bulldoze you? That's worse. That's the real danger. I reached for the whistle clipped to my belt, the one I used to call Diesel and Luna when things got tense. I clicked it once, just to hear the sharp, clear tone cut through the morning air. They perked up immediately. Ready. Alert. Loyal. I smiled, the tension easing just a little. Whatever came next, I wasn't alone. But deep down, I knew this was just a calm before the storm. Karen might be gone for now, but she wasn't finished. There'd be more calls, more threats, maybe even more damage. And I'd be ready, because this isn't just my land. It's my home. And I'll protect it with every tool I've got. Even if it means going to war.